Hey guys, welcome to today's Vehicle Visionary. Today we're going to kind of go back in time a little bit, even though 13 years ago doesn't seem much like going back in time. But I have to admit, it's been really interesting to work my way through learning about this 2008 C6 Corvette Convertible that we're going to take a look at today in our video. I've spent so much time and made so many videos with the C7s and C8s that it's really been an interesting lesson in education and evolution of the Corvette to spend time with this particular model. It's not that it's less impressive, it's just kind of interesting to see what it has and what it doesn't have compared to the newer models such as the C7 and C8 generations. But one thing that it definitely does have that the other two have as well is great acceleration and great handling, and it does have a pretty comfortable ride. We'll do a test drive later on in the video. Under the hood here is the 6.2 liter LS3 V8. And in 2008, it was making 430 horsepower and 426 pound-feet of torque. That is, unless you made the change to the upgraded performance exhaust that this model has, that you're about to get an earful of, and don't worry, it won't hurt your ears. I'm just saying that, so I don't want to hear about it in the comments. But 435 horsepower with the upgraded exhaust and an 8-speed automatic transmission. And like I promised, here's that exhaust clip. One thing that was not as popular in 2008 is you didn't see a lot of black wheels, at least not that I'm aware of. I haven't really done any research on the history of that sort of thing, but at the time I know you were seeing a lot more chrome than what we see nowadays, even though there still are people that like chrome wheels on their vehicles. In fact, tell me down in the comments, what do you prefer as far as your wheel style and or color? In this case, you do have the chrome here, but something else that's interesting in this model is that you have the vent right here that's on the fender, but I would call that a faux vent because in 2008, that's all it was. It was there for looks, not for functionality. And if we compare, again, between the C6 and C7s, it's kind of interesting when you consider cargo capacity. With the C7, it's 15 cubic feet with the coupe, which isn't too bad. Here with the C6, this 2008 model, depending on if you have the coupe or the convertible, it ranges between 11 up to 22.4 cubic feet, which I think is quite a bit for a Corvette. Definitely don't have that with the C7 and definitely not with the C8, which is I believe 12.3 or 12.4. But what I do like here is you got a couple of little compartments that are inside of the floor, kind of embedded there, that you can store even more things in beyond just on the floor here in this particular model. Now, a lot of the time what you'll see is there'll be little bits and pieces from one generation to another that just kind of pass on. In the case of going from C6 to C7, that's definitely the case with the way you open the door. You just have the pad on the inside of the door here that you push on and it opens the door. It's basically just power, if you will, kind of a power door handle. And in the exact same way as with the C7 Corvette, you can use the key that is inside of the remote that I'm showing you on the screen right now, and the locking mechanism to unlock, I should say maybe the unlocking mechanism, but where you would insert your key into the lock basically, that allows you to open the rear compartment right here, and then there is a release inside that allows you to pull on that, and then the driver's side door pops open. And of course, in the same manner, if you're in the car when the battery dies, down on the floorboard are releases to manually open the driver and passenger side doors. And of course, we can't talk about this particular Corvette and not talk about the fact that, of course, it is a convertible and how you put the convertible top down. Maybe you're looking at buying one of these and wondering how complicated the process is. Well, it's really not. There's a release in the middle, basically a latch that you pull down and kind of turn, and that releases everything here, and then you put that back in place once it's been moved into the proper position. Kind of sounds complicated, doesn't it? But it's really not. The only thing that's a little bit different where that's concerned is you have to pull up, you're going to hear this, on the emergency brake. Make sure the ignition is on. The engine does not have to be running. Your foot doesn't have to be on the brake or anything like that. And then you just use the switch on the left-hand side of the steering wheel that allows the top to go down and of course be put back up. So really pretty simple for the most part. And just to give you a quick look around here, of course you do have some steering wheel mounted controls. You do have push button ignition, seat memory for the driver, all that good stuff. But what's interesting here, this model had navigation. And for people who often say in my Chevrolet Silverado videos that the navigation and the infotainment screen and all that stuff look antiquated, well, wait until you see this. Now the screen has a little button down there on the bottom that you can use to move that down to put your CDs in. Boy, isn't it kind of funny to say, oh man, that sounds rather antiquated. This car allows you to play CDs when you're driving down the road. You don't get that these days, especially with Apple CarPlay and all that kind of stuff. It's just where we are in time with technology and all that good stuff. And it also has a heads-up display. Again, I don't want this to sound bad, but it just looks so antiquated with that green color and everything like that. It makes me think of a clock that my parents had in the den in the house I grew up in as a kid in the 1970s and 80s. Sorry, I'm not trying to give Corvette a bad time or anything like that. I just find it to be funny and kind of interesting and entertaining, honestly. You've got push button start and all that kind of stuff here. And while this did have an automatic transmission in this particular model, it was available with a manual transmission if you so desired. And wouldn't you know it, the microphone gave me issues on the test drive, but I did get to have some fun with that. And as you can see, when I stepped on the throttle, I actually told the owner who was in the passenger seat before I did so that I always like to see how white I could make the owner's face turn if they went on the test drive. Of course, I was kidding, but it's not as if he hadn't had the experience of acceleration before, just maybe not from the passenger seat. But I have to admit, for driving a 13-year-old Corvette, I was impressed with the handling, with the acceleration. The car has obviously been very well maintained, and it was just an overall fun experience to drive. In fact, it's unfortunate with the issues with the microphone that you can't hear. The interior noise really wasn't as bad as I expected. You didn't have a terrible overload of road noise, although you did have some. But I have to admit, I think what I was most impressed with was the ride quality. I said it earlier in the video, with the C6 generation of the Corvette, Chevrolet had been working to improve ride quality, and I believe they most certainly did. I have to admit, I have had more fun with this C6 Corvette than I ever could have imagined. It's really been cool to kind of go back in time 13 years and see what these Corvettes were like. Really pretty cool. And as far as the driving experience goes, not that much different than the C7. Definitely different than the C8. You can't compete with the mid-engine vehicle as far as the handling goes. But I gotta say a special thanks to the owner who has literally been behind the scenes the whole time watching me film, except for during the test drive. And I also have to say a special thanks to my friend Diane, the Corvette lady at Red River Chevrolet, because if it wasn't for her, I probably wouldn't have had a chance to make this video. And of course, a special thanks to all of you for giving me the opportunity to give you a vision for your next vehicle. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out another of the videos that's on the screen right over here, and I'll see you there.